second one named after them. And I just look out and I'm so thankful for all of our family and friends. We just love each and every one of you. And it's just, I can't thank you enough. We have nephews that traveled from Minnesota, Texas. Nephews, all the nephews, just stand up. I just want people to see our nephews. We have quite a family. I have my mother's sister who's here. She's 80 years old, and I'm so glad that she came out, and my mother's baby brother is here, and so just the whole family and friends. And I just have to say that the lady that was my maid of honor in our wedding is here. She traveled from Abilene. Stand up, Jackie. I want people to know my maid of honor. And my bridesmaid, Donna, stand up. She was the bridesmaid. So we have remained friends through all of these years, and I'm just so proud they've been married 50 years just like we have, and so just so thankful to have everybody to come out, our pastor and First Lady. Our First Lady had an engagement. She was a speaker in another city, but they made it back so that they could be here. So we just want to thank everybody for coming out, and like I told Joe Brown, we have to really be special to get her out. And I said, I know it's not me, I know it's Clarence, because she's always been in love with Clarence. So thank you, everybody, for coming out. So, do you want to say something?
Always.
Fred, get ready. You know I'm going to say a few things about you, but I'm going to pass it up until we meet later on. One of the things I have to do is look around this room, and I see some people in this room that have meant so much to all of us. And that's one of the reasons that we agreed that we would come here and share with you some of the things that we believe to be very important. Most of you that we think so much of are the ministers who are in this building today. And instead of calling all of the names out, I would like to have all of the ministers and their wives to stand so that you can see the people that have done so much, much more than both Peggy and Clarence would ever do. So I got a pastor out here. Would you please stand, Rev, and just stand up a little bit? I want all of the other ministers and his wife, yes, and all of them. And we got them here. And if there are any heroes anywhere, you can rest assured that the gentlemen and the women that stood just now, they mean so much to so many people. But there's some other things that's happening in the city as well. I have a chance now to sit and visit with some young ladies and young men that are tremendous vocalists that will be chasing some things down in this city that will probably have an impact on the White House. I can't deny the fact that one of these individuals happened to be a good friend of the whole family. And Jay Musey, I'm not going to leave you sitting back over here without you standing up. Would you, both of you, please stand? All the three of you, please stand. The Musey family, would you please stand? And they've talked us into some things that we shouldn't be involved in, but that's okay too. Let me leave that alone. But I got some nephews in this room, and they don't want to say anything right now. But they got something coming up tomorrow morning that they won't forget. I won't tell that story. Donald Turntime, Eagle 5-4, 36Z blast. You got it. He learned that when he was 14 years old, still giving that same message. It's been such a tremendous opportunity. And one of the things that I'm going to mention out here, I'm not going to share much of it with it. I appreciate the people that were a part of this activity here in this complex. I had a chance to pass some information on, created by Tevis Mike. We have some tremendous artifacts that Tevis Mike put together for a business development group that we had here in Wichita that will be presented later on to this institution. And we trust that you will take advantage of Tevis Mike, a tremendous artist, and some young businessmen that made it possible for all of the African American leaders historically were created in this building. And we want to make sure that you have a chance to share that particular opportunity. And a lot of pride in my daughters, the teachers, and all these old nappy-headed fellows right there. I tell you what, I'm gonna give this lady a hug, and I got some friends out here too. I got a classmate from Cleveland, Coffeyville Community College. Would you please stand up? Would you please stand up and just give Never could get the math right, but you did it for me on the side. Thank you. And I tell you what, thank you so much for being here. Anything that we can do with any one of you, just give us a call, and I'll make sure that Terry Gritchery is with me. Oh, I'm sorry.
We feel this. Thank Mark McCormick. Thank you, in the museum. And keep up and Kristen, yes, for putting all this together. Kristen, you did a beautiful job. It's an honor.
Mr. Mark McCormick, if you don't mind saying some words to our guests tonight before we close out.
I won't keep you long, but I have 3 pretty personal stories and then just a little bit of business. The first personal story is about a man sitting in the back who saw a high school kid at North High School trying to hang out with tough kids who were thugs, but I really wasn't a gangster. I was more like a wankster. And without fail, if he saw me with these kids, he would let them in the basketball game and not me. Or he would let me in the game and not them. And it was my first real lesson about how important it is to surround yourself with positive people. And every chance I get, I'm going to thank Mr. Terry Guidry for that. Thank you, Mr. Guidry. The next person knows what's coming. She visited North High School when I was a senior and spoke to an assembly and had the temerity to tell the truth about how at North High School black students could only swim on Fridays and then after black game and not them. And it was my first real lesson about how important it is to surround yourself with positive people. And every chance I get, I'm going to thank Mr. Terry Guidry for that. Thank you, Mr. Guidry. The next person knows what's coming. She visited North High School when I was a senior and spoke to an assembly and had the temerity to tell the truth about how at North High School black students could only swim on Fridays. And then after black kids swam, they drained the pool, refilled it so that the white kids wouldn't have to swim in the same water. And I mentioned that in a column. I mean, if you don't know who I am, I'm a recovering journalist. So I mentioned that in a column, and I got all kinds of mail. And I used to get bad mail, but this was bad mail even for me. And you're a liar, and you're this, and you're that. And I was being pressured by my editors to write a retraction, and I refused. And I was prepared to be fired for it. Then my phone rang one morning, and this sweet little voice on there said, They on your back, ain't they, baby? And it was Joe Brown. And Joe said, let me tell you what you need to do. I commissioned a book when I was in charge of the school board that listed the history of this district. Everything I told you and everything you said in that column is in that book, heavily documented. And when I wrote my follow-up column, it's amazing how everyone who was criticizing me disappeared. But as a columnist, I really patterned myself after Joe, because Joe is not afraid to say anything. She's going to say exactly what needs to be said in the moment, and I've always appreciated for her. And just like with Mr. Guidry, I'm going to tell her how much I appreciate her every time
There, it's gone. You got it?
I got it.
You good?
Thank you all for being here to honor and appreciate my parents. This, to me and my family, is humbling, and I appreciate it more than anything to look out here at all the living legends in this audience appreciating my parents. This is the village that raised us all, that we would not be what we are, or any of our children, if it wasn't for this village, the entire village. So when I see the Montgomerys and Dr. Brown, Mrs. Brown, Browns, looking, and all the other people in the community, our biggest thing that we have, that we need in order to grow and evolve, is our identity. To be able to tell our stories the way our stories need to be told. I didn't realize and appreciate what I grew up with in this village and having parents that I had until I went away to Harlem and realized everybody doesn't have parents like we have these parents. Everybody doesn't grow up in Jack and Jill or the Lynx, or have two parents, or have great ministry. Everybody doesn't have the story and the legacy to hold on to. So I thank you all for being here to appreciate them. I thank God for the grace and the blessing of this community. The grace to keep my parents. With long life, God says He satisfies us. With power, love, and sound minds. And I thank God for all of you and for my parents. His appreciation wasn't always here. Sometimes we take things for granted. But I truly, Mom and Dad, appreciate you for everything. You just keep giving, and you keep giving, and I thank you. I'm going to pass it on to one of these guys.
I want to start by saying thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. It's an incredible honor to be standing here just to speak on behalf of the family, and to honor these guys who have made it really hard for the grandchildren, because, you know, it's hard to be normal when you have such incredible shoes to fill.
All right.
You know, you just kind of want to walk in the room and fade into the background, but you can't, because, you know, you have this thing running through your veins.
All right.
And I just want to thank you guys, because your hearts are something that, you know, we look up to and we want to, you know, emulate. And man, you taught us how to be impeccable when it came to style, and never leave the house without, you know, everything in place, ever. And Mr. Clarence, Wesley, taught us how to have a heart for people and for the youth of the community, and we're here today to tell you that we're all going to continue that legacy, because we can't let it die. So we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Hello. I just want to say thank you for teaching us to do the right thing. No matter how we think, how we dress, how we love, how we treat each other, and how to have family. Because, you know, we were always with Aunt Betty and Uncle Leonard, and everybody always stayed together. You know, he taught us how to be good, loving people. And now I'm going to give it to Cameron.
Just to close out, I just want to say thank you. I never say it because I'm always on the go, always trying to keep up, like they said. I appreciate y'all for allowing me to come back and stay with you and go to school. I really do appreciate it.
It's all right, bro. Now you know you were supposed to say something.
I see that the Reverends Montgomery are here, and I'm hoping you'll get my back. I demand of the Kansas African American Museum, please locate some paper sacks and cover everybody related to Wesley, because I cannot talk and look at all these fine people. That's okay, I got one. This is my handsome husband. I'm one of those people. I know the Wesleys can't believe it. In our lifetime, each of us have been exposed to power couples. Martin and Coretta, Nelson and Winnie, Barack and Michelle, Malcolm and Betty, Leonard and Betty, Everest and Sharon, Lincoln and Annie, Bill and Anita, and Val and Joe. The first power couple to whom we became intimately acquainted was Clarence and Peggy. Peggy. When I was a young lady, and I really was a young lady, I rode the bus to school. That was before we had busing, so we rode the city bus. And I saw the most beautiful woman I had ever seen next to my mother in my life. Her name was Peggy Hatcher. So I'm understanding how Clarence stopped her right there to see if he could holler at her. Then as now, she looked perfect. We all know the story about Dr. Sit-In and her courageous participation that was just one incident in her life where she strove to make a difference. I don't know if you guys knew this. Well, they mentioned earlier that she was the first African-American teller. But did anybody know that they called her in to her face and said, okay, we've hired you. How you behave will determine how many other black folks, African Americans or Negroes back then, will get hired. That's what she was told when she went to work, you know. And did she represent us, folks? Yeah. Okay. She was at First National Bank, and there she worked to help others and making sure that we as African Americans got the same service, same attention, and the same respect as everybody else. After that, she went home to take care of her gorgeous, could you kind of turn around? I just can't talk looking at you, honey. Her daughters, Kira and Markel, and her incredibly handsome grandsons, Brock, Tyler, and Cameron. I'm gonna steal them.
You can have them.
Yeah, you sure talk a good game. As next door neighbors, we lived in a duplex on Shady Brook. When we awakened in the morning, we would do the shave and a haircut knock. This is what she used to do with Betty, and after Betty left, she would do, you know. Okay? Well, Peggy would give me the shave and a haircut, and then I was supposed to give the 2 bits. Child, I'd get up, 2 bits, hit that bed. But that was my alarm clock. I went to bed. We've had the occasion to work together in organizations, and Peggy always does what Peggy says she's gonna do, and she does it right now. Still taking care of husband Clarence and her babies. When you see Peggy, you can't help but think, how beautiful. Well, let me tell you what. What you see on the outside just manifests itself more on the inside. She shared her family and her mother with joy. A lady with style, always a smile, incomparable, is all I can state. At the end of the day, all I can say,
It's Peggy Wesley we appreciate.
By the way, the title of this speech is Appreciate. Just so you knew. I resume. Throughout the years, I remember that whenever Clarence's name came up, Terry would always say, Clarence took care of me and all the other athletes at WSU. He still says that. We were dating, and I can remember him telling me he was going to be a teacher like Clarence. He had gone down to Zales to buy a watch, and they would not give him credit. And Clarence pulled out that USD 259 ID, and Terry was able to get his watch. He said, Nita, I just couldn't believe it, you know. But that's how Clarence was, always rising to the occasion, always trying to help someone else. They had a nickname for each other, and I don't know if you remember, Fool. And they say, hey, fool, how you doing? Hey, fool. That's what they called each other, which I think is certainly much more appropriate than the N-word. You know what it is? I'm blind as a bat. The athletes at the university could always depend on Clarence, and he had a television show, Looking In, where he gave local minorities the opportunity to promote their businesses. Later, after Clarence left teaching, he became the manager of the Community Development and Human Resources for the Chamber of Commerce. Why did they hire him? That's when his energy and generosity combined into spontaneous combustion and exploded. He was on a mission. He was determined. He not only wanted minorities to start their own business, he wanted their businesses to flourish. He was so impressive that both Presidents Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford invited him to the White House to participate in a think tank. He was responsible for, they've named the businesses, and it was about $6 million that got financed through his efforts. And I did a quick calculation, and that $6 million extrapolated to 60 million moving through the hands of the minority community just because of Clarence's efforts. Unheard of. I could go on listing the awards he's received, but just go to their house and take a picture of the wall. Plenty. I mean, they don't have the wallpaper, they just put his awards up there. On a personal note, I had an opportunity to type up some proposals for Clarence. You know, he and Peggy they can both spell, but they don't have any clue about the word ego. And now I was supposed to type it up. That's what I was supposed to do. And I'd say, and I was nervous the first time, and I said, Mr. Wesley, I said, I'm not feeling this report. And I would tell him why, you know, some certain aspect of it, I just couldn't understand it. Now, anybody else, well, I did this, you just do what I say. But in my church, we're taught all you have to do is make sure the information you have is a part of the decision-making process. You don't have to change anything. And he'd call me up, he'd say one of two things. He'd say, Neat, you're right, let's change it, or this is the reason that was that way. So it was never anything about his ego or anything that we were able to make that happen. And I appreciated that. And one time I went to him and I said, I don't want you to think I'm trying to be critical. And he said, you're asking me questions prospective investors would ask. I need to be ready. Oh, you know, I thought I was all of that. Always on target, helping everyone, overlooking others' mistakes. From looking in to stepping in, his helping hand was always offered for others to take. And so again, when we think of a friend, the declaration we must make out of everyone, father, mother, and son.
We appreciate you, Clarence.
We were in a conundrum when trying.
He knows what I want to say.
We were in a conundrum when trying to determine an appropriate tribute to the Wesleys. What do you give the couple that has everything and has done everything? And then lightning struck. The name Wesley is synonymous with education, entrepreneurship, and charity, helping others. From their daughter Markel, a teacher who has had only one principal in her career. Whenever the principal is moved, she packs up her personal belongings and Markel. She won't leave without her. Kira is a top-notch promotional consultant and spiritual advisor to the youth of her congregation. We decided to call on one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. Ben looks good, doesn't he? He was a great statesman, a great orator, and more importantly, he really knew how to go forth and multiply. So, y'all didn't know that, did you? Okay. Now, we don't presume to tell the board of directors what to do, but we like to donate a Benjamin to establish the Wesley Fund at TKAAM. We encourage you to also make a tax-deductible donation to this fund. Now, I want to take credit for this acronym. Let me get a credit for Benjamin first. Get Benjamin, thank you. Okay, thank you. I want to take credit for this acronym. Hold on. But my husband is actually the one that thought of it. And it stands for, if I can ever get this right, working to ensure successful leadership and entrepreneurship in youth.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Now, y'all, I really am almost through. I'm almost through, okay? In closing, we, the Guidrys, have spent our lives reveling in our friendship with the Wesleys. From the years we lived in a duplex on Shady Brook as neighbors to when we relocated to Bel Air. Taking turns each week driving our daughters to dance class, even sharing Peggy's mother, Mimi. There has always been an unbreakable bond between our families. We don't have the words to express the breadth and depth of our appreciation. When our lives are over and we reach the pearly gates, St. Peter will want to know who we tried to emulate. We'll stand right there, look into his eyes, and boldly state, riding or walking, singing or talking.
Clarence and Peggy, we appreciate you.
Let's have another round of applause for the Guidrys. Great minds think alike, because I've been telling my husband this week, this event is coming up and we're going to honor Clarence and Peggy. And so he said, well, what do I need to do? I said, well, I got this. All you need to do is stand up here and look cute, look good. But I did give him a small role at the end. We have admired the Wesleys all of our lives. I can't even remember when we first met them. It seems like they've been a part of our lives and our family forever. I'm thinking that we met them through Mother Mimi Hatcher at Tabernacle years and years ago. But it is indeed our privilege and pleasure to render tribute and give honor to such a deserving and beautiful couple. Lincoln and I salute them on this special day for being a faithful and committed married couple, loving and supportive parents, grandparents, and family members, loyal stewards in every aspect of their church home, highly respected and contributing community members who courageously and humbly stood, and they are still standing for justice, mercy, and righteousness. Finally, we love that they have set the standard for what a godly man and a godly woman looks like when faith in God is not only taught, but walked out with such obedience, elegance, and grace. We are speaking of none other than Clarence and Peggy Wesley, who are like family to us and will always have a second church home and family in Tabernacle Bible Church. These words seem so small and inadequate, yet we were compelled to be here today to let you know, Clarence and Peggy, that we don't take you for granted. Rather, we love you, we appreciate you, and we encourage you. And we're grateful to God for placing you in our lives. Your lives speak volumes to all who pay attention that the word of God is true. Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. That's Psalm 127 and 1. And so we thank you for the investment that you have made in our lives personally and in this community at large. God bless you. A word from Pastor.
Clarence and Peggy, we appreciate you. As Pastor has prayed the prayer of blessing, I'd like to pray just a brief moment of affirmation for the dedication and the inspiration that this couple has provided for this community. So if you'd bow with me, we declare, O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is your name in all the earth. And because your name is excellent, Lord, your ways are excellent. Your word is excellent. Your will is excellent. And your will has been made demonstrated and manifest by this couple, 50 years more plus together, but a representation, an example, and a ministry in this community that is certainly bears your power, your providence, and your grace. We simply wish, Lord, that you would continue to keep your hands of healing, of help, and of hope on them. And may they continue to provide then an inspiration and an example for those who follow after them in the community of Wichita, Kansas. We certainly thank you for this moment, for praise, for affirmation that is well deserved, and for the privilege of standing here today to add our voices to the chorus. This is thank God for Clarence and Peggy Wesley. In the matchless name of a crucified but risen Christ we pray, and we say amen. Amen. And now we'll have the ushers come forward and receive our offering. I'm sorry.
This is indeed an honor. This is the day that the Lord has made. And I am rejoicing, and I am so happy and glad. My husband, just 3 months ago, shared something that I'm going to share with you tonight. We've known the Wesleys forever, since we've been in Wichita, which has been forever. And of course, we have worked with them in different organizations, but the story that my husband reminded me of 3 months ago that I'm going to share relates to Clarence's TV show, Looking In. I was so happy that Mrs. Guidry talked about it. I was so happy. Is it on? Yep.
Hello. I was so pleased that Mrs. Guidry mentioned that show, because that was huge. The things that we were doing in this community that were wonderful, they were put on display. You didn't just have to see the negative remarks about what our young people were not doing. There was a television show that was regionally acclaimed that we could be on. And so this particular time, he asked my husband to come on and talk about Dr. King. Well,
You know Elvis Cranford couldn't come on there and talk about Dr. King without talking about the fact that he was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. So I could see Clarence getting cross-eyed as any Kappa would. So when Elvis finally got through, Clarence said, well, we won't hold that against you or Dr. King. Very witty, very wonderful, very loving, kind couple. We have loved you and appreciated you for many, many years, and I'm so happy that you are receiving the Cranford Village Award, because it does take a village. And we're so proud that you are a great, great part of it. And so, it reads, the Kansas African American Museum, and I didn't bring my glasses.
You want me to read it?
Honors. PhD notwithstanding, Clarence and Peggy Wesley, as the second annual Cranford Village Award recipients, March 18th, 2017. The Wesleys are a loving couple who exemplify.
I don't know if I can follow all those great speakers. I am not a speaker, so I have to have notes here. But I am so happy that Clarence and Peggy are receiving this award. They are so deserving for their service to the community and compassion for others. They are my brother and sister-in-law, but they are really my brother and sister. Leonard and I married a few years before they, and when they married, we became running partners ever since. Of course, Clarence and Peggy were already very close. Clarence and Leonard were already very close as brothers. Clarence being the youngest of their family of 8 brothers and sisters. We did many things together, even our children close together. In fact, our youngest children were born one day apart. Wesley babies born at Wesley Hospital, delivered by the same doctor, made the news. Our 2 oldest children are only 10 months apart. They had the girls, we had the boys. Clarence and Peggy have been good role models for younger generations in their marriage and in their community environment. It's my very pleasure to say I'm a part of their family with love and respect, and I respect them all. My sons and grandchildren look up to them with love and fond memories of the good times that they spent with them, and we look forward to many more. Congratulations, Peggy and Clarence. Love and best wishes for many more great years together. We need you to continue your good work. God's blessings to you always for good health and happiness. And I'll end with this little quote. Your life and mine shall be valuable, not by what we take, but by what we give. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy grew up in neighboring Kansas towns with less than 45 miles between them. However, they met in the city of Wichita, Kansas. Peggy had moved with her family earlier in her teens, attending Wichita East and Clarence after graduating Coffeyville Junior College and Pittsburgh State University to begin his career as an elementary school teacher. As fate would have it, Clarence was walking home from Fairmount Elementary on North Lorraine, where he taught 6th grade, where Peggy had just been dropped off by bus going to her home on the same block after work. He asked politely, from across the street if he might call her sometime, and the rest is history, okay? They were both active in their teens with the NAACP and other groups. Peggy was the youngest protester in the TKAAM sit-in for her youth chapter in Wichita.
Clarence, the president of his local chapter. The 60s and 70s were very progressive years for the couple, rippling in a series of firsts. When they met, Peggy had recently been hired as the first African-American banker in the city and perhaps the state of Kansas, and Clarence walked out a series of pioneering feats. Clarence was always an achiever, the youngest of 8 children in Coffeyville, Kansas, excelling in academics and athletics that paid his way through college. He received his undergrad at Pittsburgh State University, where he was also a proud Kappa Alpha Psi chapter pole mark. He later earned his Master of Arts degree from Wichita State University. He became the first African-American manager at the Wichita Area Chamber of Commerce, heading community development and human resources, a position that opened a portal of successful ventures. Leadership in the creation of the Mid-America All-Indian Center. He was a part of Small Business Administration Minority Advocates, White House think tanks, creation of Mesbic Central Systems Development Court, summer youth employment programs, military affairs, and many more. Central Systems Development Corporation funded several Wichita minority enterprises, most notably Junior Custom Metals, Little Pals Daycare, Marble Theater, Alfred Electric, Woolcoo Oil, Carmel Corn, and Athena Jewelry. The couple married in 1965, and Peggy also grew in her career in banking while managing an impeccable household with 2 daughters, Kira and Markel. Did I say that correctly? Awesome. Through the years, she remained committed to the community and culture through organizations Jack and Jill Incorporated, Links Incorporated, National Association of Bank Women, and volunteer services like Meals on Wheels. Peggy and Clarence are currently semi-retired, but remain active in Wichita. Their oldest daughter, Kira, is in publishing and production in New York with 2 sons, Brock in real estate, and Tyler in creative director and brand marketing, also in New York. And their youngest daughter, Markel, is a trailblazing teacher in Georgia. Markel's son, Cameron, is currently a junior at Wichita State University. And guys, the list goes on for this couple. Let's continue to give them a round of applause.